I'm just going to go up to. I've got no trophies in the background, sadly.
There's not enough space in the camera for yours, mate.
No, well, no, for Carly's, no doubt. But for me, like, even my son now, my son's a semi-professional darts player now. Yes, player. He's
That's awesome.
he's got a trophy cabinet spanning across the windowsill now as well. So even my son has topped me on trophies now. So there you go.
You paved the way,
but I love him. Just don't like him at the minute. Well, there you go. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Man. Can you see me and hear me all right?
I can see and hear you fine, mate. Yeah. But it's good that you're passing down tradition, because even my son, he's a fantastic footballer. So he's won like player of the month a couple of times, team captain.
That's cool.
And he's 11. You know what I mean? So he's starting off way before we did. You know what I mean? It's good.
That's crazy. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I started. I think I was 13. I mean, you saw the thing I sent you the other day. You saw that, there was the story, the boarding school story, and that's God's honest truth. I was getting bullied in that, so I started lifting up weights, and I thought, forget this. I'm just, getting big rugby guys like pushing me around and ordering me around, making me clean their shoes, and that. This is old school back in 1989, 1990, where that sort of older kids in schools were allowed, they called them prefects in the boarding school. They were allowed to be authoritative. They were allowed to be authoritative, let's say. We'll call it authoritative, / bullying / like torture. So I remember we had a gym. We had quite a good gym at the boarding school, and we could use it any time. Obviously, if we didn't have lessons, we could use it. And so I remember going down there, and I remember just started lifting weights, and I remember thinking and I didn't really know diet or nutrition, but obviously I guess I'm not a genetic freak, Sean, but I'm like, obviously, I started noticing my arms were growing, and I didn't really know what I was doing, to be fair. And it was just, I just started noticing development in that. And then, soon, about a year into that, the bullies started to fade away, let's say. They faded away. so, yeah, that was my reason anyway. So, yeah, it's a good enough reason to start lifting weights, I guess.
That's the thing. I don't know if it was you that mentioned this to me recently. A lot of guys that start lifting, if you look at the backstory, there's normally some sort of trauma or insecurity or, right, I've had enough of this. Yeah. This is what I'm going to do now. There's always if you look at the backstory, there's always something that pushes them when they've had enough of whatever's gone on.
But there is, because it's like it's not. I don't think it's strange, because we're inside this. We're within this bodybuilding world, so I don't think it's strange. But from the outside looking in, I think a lot of people perceive bodybuilding as quite an odd sport. I think you need a certain level of, and I mean this respectfully across the bodybuilding, because I've got ADHD. I'm on the spectrum for sure. Never been diagnosed with it, but I just know I am. 2 of my children have it. It's very hereditary, but you need that level of to go to the gym as a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so a white collar worker who pops in, for 40 minutes, 3 times a week, not that, interested in supplements, let's say. Yeah. And he's just doing it just to keep himself sane and stuff like that. But to go to that competitive way, you need that addictive personality. You need to be slightly tuned differently, I would say. And I mean this respectfully, because I am diagnosed fully, ADHD. I think you'll find a lot of bodybuilders. I remember talking about, I'm very open about things like, any sort of additional needs or any sort of problems, or I've had depression and anxiety. I'm very, very open about it. So when you're open about things, other people tend to open up to you too, in response to, they think, oh, wow, he's talking about it. He must be comfortable. Maybe I can be comfortable too. I've had response on social media where people, I've had alpha male bodybuilders, like 20 stone, lumps, absolute tall guys you'd never think would be, oh yeah, I've suffered from anxiety and stuff. But you do. As soon as you open get the floodgates open, and people don't. So I think what I've noticed, so many bodybuilders have gone, oh my God, yeah, I've got ADHD. And I'm sure there's a pattern forming. And I'm not suggesting for 1 second everyone that bodybuilds and competes has got any sort of additional needs or ADHD. However, I do think there is something in it. The ADHD back in the day, they found out, I think, through DNA or something, that the hunter-gatherers from back in the day, 5,000 years ago, the people that were in charge, the people that were running for miles to get that kill, to feed the camp and all that, were probably ADHD as well. They've got that, that raw. If I've got my mind set on something, I'm freaking doing it no matter what. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think there's an element. I think there's an element of that, and respectfully, obviously, because I can say it because I got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I think you do need that addictive personality to be able to achieve goals in this, because it is a crazy, you know, I think the only other sport, probably UFC or boxing, where you've got to get your body, you know, you've got to, you know, like lose water weight, you've got to get to this certain weight, you've got to make weight, where you've got to go to such extremes. You need to be tuned a little bit differently, I think, to be able to think,
Definitely.
okay, I'll do that.
You've got to take pleasure in suffering. You've got to take pleasure in suffering.
You know better than most, bro. Your condition recently has been just craziness, man. You know what I mean? So huge respect to you. I salute you, sir. You know what I mean? So.
And likewise, I saw you last season at your starting point, and to get to the condition. I mean, at the end of the day, as I was saying, I've done 3 years back to back. I've done 3 years back to back comps, so I was already a little bit more conditioned than I would have been if I had loads of years off. Whereas you had a significant time off, so to get from your point A to point B and to be competitive and to still place. That takes some
it was it means a lot to me, because, you know, it was I had 4 years off, and it was exactly 4 years off for him. I think 2021 the IBFA British final was the last comp I'd done, and, you know, I realized, because I lost mum, as you know, and then I lost my dad. He sort of died of a broken heart, so it was like. And another thing, I think, with ADHD and things like that, and it's not making I'm in any worse situation than anyone else, but I find apparently it's a bit of a trait where it's quite hard to deal with trauma and stuff like that. I find it hard to process trauma, and I'll do, you know, it's that addictive personality thing again. So, you know, I sort of went off the rails for a bit, and it took me a few years really to realize that what made me a better person, made me mentally more secure, which made me happy and made me get up in the morning and smile, was bodybuilding. And it was literally that reason. You know, I was really suffering, anxiety went through the roof and stuff, and it was like that thing. You know, I coach people and I tell people it's that classic, Sean, you know, where practice what you preach. I would say if I've had, you know, girls, maybe bikini athletes, they're on the time of the month, and I'm like, when do you last train? I haven't trained for a week, I've been down, but, you know, I'm telling them, even for things like that, get in the gym, use it as iron therapy. But I wasn't doing it myself, and it took me a couple of years to realize I need to fix up. You know what I mean? I need what's missing. Other people say, you would be right. So, but you take that natural drug away from you, you're craving it. You know what I mean? You're getting twitchy. You know what I mean? So and it was 100%. That saved me, man. And it sounds cheesy and cliche, but 100%, me getting back into competing after that 4-year break, 100% saved me, mate. And it sounds super cheesy and a bit sort of like Hollywood-like story and that, but it's not. It just really, really, really did save me on so many levels, mate. So many levels. Yeah.
That's admirable, man. So that's very, very admirable. So how long have you been training for, Jay?
I've been training properly. I mean, like I said, the boarding school story was, you know, when I was 13, but that was just messing around. And it wasn't, there was no focus really. It was just, I was doing it for probably the wrong reasons anyway. But I mean, I started like properly training when I was about 16, 17, and I was training in, you know, just like health clubs and stuff, no bodybuilder. I hadn't been in my first spitting sawdust gym. I was probably like maybe 19, 20, like, you know, like I think Muscle Works or something like that, Bethnal Green, and you know, you're like, whoa, like, well, you know, it's a whole different world, you know. But you know, you think it's a scary environment, but weirdly, it's probably one of the most friendly places on the planet. You know, but from outsiders that aren't bodybuilders or competitors, you know, you think, you know, everyone thinks, oh, these steroid freaks in there. Like, you know, everyone's like, vomit next to the squat machine on the floor, spitting sawdust and that, but it's not. But so I think my first spitting sawdust gym, I think that's what really fired me up. Because, oh my God, this is where I want to be. You know, you find a happy place, innit? And it just clicks.
100%. Yeah.
And then I just started, it's that addictive personality thing. I started growing, wasn't growing enough. But then you start looking, I was looking into, you know, changing my diet and the creatine. You know, even back then, creatine for me was just like, wow, it's powerful, you know, it's stuff like that, you know. I guess it's fairly vanilla compared to other things nowadays, isn't it?
Other things,
you know, but that was it. But I just literally like fell in love. I just literally like fell in love with it. It was, you know, like the fact that how much you've achieved and how much you do in the gym, what you say, especially with, you know, issues you have with your back and things like that, and you still managing to get that condition and still doing that. You must have that sort of like unbelievable love for it as well, isn't it? You know what I mean? So it's only another bodybuilder that can. Huh?
I'm gonna let you into a secret. I done my first comp in 2015, and then I was just lifting for enjoyment more than anything. That feeling of the pump. All right, so I lifted for enjoyment, and then I met you down at the kickboxing club because I think
that's right.
Yeah, I think your son used to go down there, didn't he?
And just finish
and you walked in. I remember you walked in, and I was like, "Look at this guy. This guy is jacked. This guy is jacked." Yeah, you walked in.
Yeah.
And the guy that was running the place went, "Yeah, that's my mate. He competes." And I'm like, I've got to get talking to this guy. And then I think that's when we spoke. I looked at it, I was like, "Nah, I've got to get back into this."
11 years ago. 11 years ago. Bro.
11 years ago, yeah. And then from there, you put me onto PT Lenny.
Oh shit, yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we go back away. Yeah. Yeah. So you got me back into competing after one comp. You got me back into it. So I was like, I've got to get back on it.
That's great. I love that. No, but I love that. That honestly, that will I get. Look, you can't see. I'm getting goosebumps, mate. Honestly, like that's crazy, mate. Because I mean, obviously, like you had to put the work in yourself. I'm not taking any credit for it, but it's really, really like warming and nice to know that I had a part of you going down that sort of path. Because look at what you've achieved since. I mean, look what's behind you, mate. You know, you've smashed it, mate. I've been following you like closely this season, mate. Watching how your physique's changed. Honestly, legs better. Like I'm not saying they were bad before, but just everything you've got that lovely like symmetry now, mate. And the condition was gnarly, and I mean that. I'm not saying stuff you want to hear. It was gnarly, man. It was honestly, it was proper, mate. Like super impressed, man. Super impressed.
Coming from you, I appreciate that, mate. And I still feel there's a bit of juice left in the tank because there's a number of body parts I'm not happy with. So I said to myself, the Sean Ray approach where the guys he was up against were a lot bigger than him. So he said, all right, then here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get condition on point and my presentation. So that's how we kind of close the gap for guys that are bigger. So I'm not obviously not no Sean Ray, but that's the approach I took. I thought, okay, let me get my conditioning on point to kind of compensate. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's it. Well, you have to work. You work to your strengths now, and you sort of build your weaknesses in the off season and things like that. I came second 8 times in a row a few seasons back in the day. As well, because what it was with the break, when I had the break from actually competing as well, I never not wanted to be in the bodybuilding world. For me to, there's one thing not competing, but just to shut off from the bodybuilding world completely, even if you're not training. I know guys have had injuries and that, but just staying in that world, even running backstages or even handing out leaflets at comps and stuff, just to be in that world still. Do you know what I mean? Because I think it's such a beautiful, wonderful world, and it's such a niche. It's a lovely world, I think. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, the people are so friendly, the comps and that and everything. Just to have to leave it completely just because you're not getting down to 4% body fat. I think that's how I saw it. That would be insanity because I would miss it. It would be a hole in my life, in my heart. Sounds cheesy, but that is the case. So we got into started doing papers, and I've done papers in 4 different feds now. So I feel like in a very non-arrogant way, as you know, I'm super humble. I feel like I've proved myself to be able to judge people. I've judged British finals, judged for NFM UK, GBO, judged their British final. Me and Carly did it. We were side by side. I think it was like a couple of hundred athletes in that. And, it's difficult when you've got 25 bikini girls all come out. It's a final. You've got to think, right, at the final, they're all not going to be far off each other unless someone's let them put. They've gone through the net. They've slipped through the net and they're not quite stage ready, let's say, respectfully. So, having to judge girls quickly and then move them around and things like that, it does take some skill. And so that was my way of still being in the industry. And then, as you know, we put on our own show a couple of years ago. We did an IBFA show, the Southeast. I think you were away or something. I think you were touring with the idea.
I was away, yeah.
It's a shame, man. But, mate, there's more stuff.
Do you have any plans to return to the stage?
Well, I'm doing, obviously, as you know, I think you follow me. I did 3 shows last year. So I did, but this is quite not shocking, but it makes it more realistic about the fact that I'm getting a bit older. Under IFBB rules, I actually qualified I could actually do the over 50s bodybuilding category this year. I could do, because obviously I'm 49. But in the IFBB rules, well, I don't know if it's IFBB International or National, but under UK BFF, I mean, rules. I mean, for example, my first ever Masters men's physique, I did men's physique when I was, when I was a newbie years and years ago. And I was 39 in an over 40s class, but because I was 40 in the year of the show, you're allowed to do it. So on paper, I can do over 50s bodybuilding this year in UK BFF. So I thought I might have a dance. But having said that, I've judged over 50s classes that have been the best classes out of the whole show. You got to think about it. You've got guys that have been training potentially for like 35 years, right? So, or more. They've got muscle on top of muscle on top of muscle. They've got that grainy, mature muscle belly, which someone in their 20s can't emulate unless they're a genetic freak like Ronnie Coleman or Dorian genetics and qualities. It's hard. You know, it's a different grainy, gnarly muscle, isn't it?
Denser.
I've judged 20 guys on stage before, like, and you know, in the over 50s, and you're like, this is just ridiculous. You know, they're walking past the curtain, you're like, mate, like, you're 55. How the hell are you looking like that, man? Yeah. but yeah, it's true. So yeah, I'm gonna. Sorry to answer your question. I'm gonna start prepping February. Probably the beginning of the first week of February, I'm going to start prepping. I've got areas, you know, like you said yourself, I need to exaggerate more. Quad sweep. I need to get that conditioner across the hamstrings and stuff. Most of it with me, it's been lower body issues and that. Glutes a bit tighter as well. As you know, when you're in the budgie smugglers, when you're in budgie smugglers, there's not a lot of fabric, man. They're judging every part of you, boy. You know, they're judging every part of you, innit? You know what I mean? There's nowhere to hide, man. There's nowhere to hide. You know, I know from a judge's point of view, if you don't train glutes and hammies and stuff like that, mate, we know as soon as you walk past that curtain. And you know, and I do train those body parts a lot, but just genetically, it's taken longer for me to develop in those areas more. I could go do one bicep workout and my arms were bigger, you know, twice the size. 2 days later, I'm just genetically, that's how I am gifted in certain areas, but not gifted in others. But you know, I think you find it. You'll struggle to find a bodybuilder that is like from neck to toe absolutely perfect in symmetry genetically, apart from like the Ronnies and the Dorians in it. You know what I mean? So I'm going to be working on growing these areas. I'm probably being naive to think that I can get to where I want to be by bulking from February and then going on stage in August, because that's kind of, to me, that's fast tracking. I think potentially I would need a season or two. But then it's that urge to get back on stage. Oh, can I wait 2 years? Like, no way, man. I'll go on stage 90% just to get back on stage. But yeah, so I'm looking at doing. I reckon I want to aim at 4 shows this year, bro. You know what I mean? So I did 3 last year, but I was prepping for 9 months last year.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Tell me about it. I was in it. Tell me about it. It was. But you know my starting point. You said it yourself at the beginning of this chat that my starting point was lost majority of my muscle. I'd been through alcohol and drug issues and stuff because of my depression and anxiety. I was on a lot of anti-depressant pills and stuff like that, which don't mix with those. I call them negative luxuries. And I was in a, I don't mind admitting it, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I was in a really, really bad way. And the only way I found that I was actually controlling any of the grief from losing the parents and things like that was by hiding it with things like alcohol and drugs, which is not me. And, you know, it's not me at all. I'm all about, you know, I'm a father, I'm a husband. You know, no one ever really saw any of that side of it. It was more, I was almost doing it behind closed doors, you know, like sort of embarrassed about it and, you know, just for self-pride and stuff like that. But so my starting block last season was not your best starting block. But then, and you know, I'm, like I said before, I'm super humble. I'm not arrogant, if anything, self-loathing. So, but this comment is not an arrogant comment. But I am proud of myself. I am proud of myself for getting to what, even just to get back on stage, mate, regardless of how I looked. I'm proud of myself because I was in such a low place, man. Such a low place, mate. But the weights, the iron, the fasted cardio, it cured me. All the medication went away. Alcohol went away, any drugs went away, everything, all this sort of even homeopathic stuff, all in the bin, mate.
Yeah.
And then just fasted cardio, doing little posts on Instagram, keep me positive and stuff like that. Looking at people like yourself, following you, just getting inspiration from people like, and definitely from you, mate. And it's like that was my. I didn't need any doctors and medicinal things. I just needed that. I needed bodybuilding again in my life, and it does. Like I said, cliche, cheesy, but shit, man, did the trick.
Does the trick, mate. Yeah. I'm fine. I know you got to run as well. What advice would you give to the younger lifters coming up? Like personally, some of the guys who I've seen, even in their teens and early 20s, compared to, I mean, you've only got a couple of years on me. So some of the guys that I'm seeing coming through now, compared to when we were at that age, are unbelievable. All right,
lumps.
But
lumps.
What advice would you give to
Junior bodybuilders.
It's unbelievable.
The main advice, I would say, and I'm very open about stuff. I've taken anabolics and stuff, and supplements, PEDs for competition. My biggest advice would be for coming in for younger bodybuilders to train natty. Even just train natty as much as you can, but to come in, you hear these horror stories about guys going on buying stuff from Thailand online and stuff and not knowing what they're doing and stuff. We've got no advice. They've got no coach. They want results quick. Just go, use the iron, look into nutrition first, look into that first, don't be naive. Don't think you're going to get results overnight by doing all this stuff and that, I know it's a bit of it's an obvious statement to make, when you ask me like what advice, but I think primarily that is, at the minute I've been training in a gym called the Gym Group, only because it's 24 hours and I can go down there and do my fasted cardio and stuff. But I listen to the conversations with these. I've got teenagers. It's a very teenager gym, the Gym Group, right? There's a lot because it's cheap and now students can get discount. And I'm listening every time I train. I'm listening to conversations. Oh, I've been doing trend. I've been doing this, mate. These guys, and you see they've got no. It is dangerous if you've got no advice or no sort of guidance. And I'm not suggesting do it just if you have advice and guidance. I'm not suggesting that at all, but I would say primarily just train that, eat well, and just it's all about work ethic as well. It's not going to happen overnight. There's no miracle. There's no miracle one that you're going to get like you're going to be tonked the next day. It's all about hard graft. It's all about hard graft, hard graft and food. Food is just. I train when you train maybe 4 or 5 times a week. You're eating 5 to 7 times a day. What's potentially more important? You do the maths, right? And that's, I think, where the kids, I think where it sounds very patronising, the children, but the younger generation are not focusing enough on the nutrition side of it. 100%, they're not focusing enough on the nutrition. If they're going down to the gym, maybe having a quick whey protein, no carbs after their training. Get that guidance for the food, because otherwise you're flogging a dead horse. You're not going to get any gains. You need that fuel, man.
Sound advice.